Hello, Director. Today we are going to discuss about our findings and takeaways about the OSU's P-card transactions. My name is Aaron Caballero. We have here the gentleman, Jago Mark Rocamora, and then the lady here, Yang Shen, who's going to start us off.
Thank you, Ariane. For question 7, we analyzed return transaction in the first quarter of 2014. We first filtered the data from January to March, and then selected only negative amounts to identify returns. We used Summarize tool to calculate the total number and value of those transactions. For our results, we have 906 returns. From this result, we found that return activities was not rare, but happen quite often. This might suggest inefficient purchasing decisions, such as buying the wrong items or using unsuitable vendors. In addition, repeatable misuse. Overall, return activities should be monitored more closely as part of ongoing PCAR oversight. Next, I will pass to Jago.
Thank you. So what I did to solve question 16 was I started by filtering out all the Amazon.com purchases using Alteryx. Then I used the formula tool to figure out what the potential earnings would be for each buy. If it was over $500, the rate was 0.75%, and if it was less than $500, it was 0.50%. Finally, I just add up all those earnings and counted how many transactions there were with the summarize tool. Looking at 3,168 Amazon purchases made in 2014, OSU might have brought in about $2,593.74 within the Amazon Smile program. The basics here is that even tiny percentages of rewards can really add up to significant savings when you're buying a lot of stuff. All right, I'll pass this to Arian.
Okay, so we have formed the original question. Are there card holders at USU who are repeatedly exceeding the single transaction purchase limit of $5,000? If so, who are they and what does the pattern look like? See, the OSU policy strictly prohibits single P-card transactions over $5,000. While isolated incidents may be simple errors, our analysis shifted to the focus from individual transactions to behavioral patterns. A single violation is an accident. However, dozens of violations suggest a systematic bypass of internal controls. So in the workflow, we filtered all transactions exceeding the $5,000 threshold. Then we used a summary tool by grouping data by name and agency to calculate total over limit span and frequency of violations. Then we used another filter tool for cardholders with two or more violations to distinguish intentional patterns from one-time mistakes. Now, with our findings, we identified 9 cardholders who are repeated offenders. This is not a scattered issue across satellite offices. It is concentrated among specific individuals. Current reporting flags transactions but fails to flag people behind the patterns. The real risk is it's the lack of the system that asks who is doing this repeatedly. Um, Now we're going to talk about internal controls, recommendations, and director recommendations. Passing out to Diego.
Thank you. So the first internal control recommendation would be OSU needs to get better at keeping track of P-card transaction spendings. They should make managers sign off on bigger purchases, make sure every transaction has the right receipts. So to move forward, I suggest for you, director, that you want to check out monthly dashboards or get some automated report.
Focusing on those users, the director can find issues earlier and reduce risk. And for the director recommendation, exception reports can automatically flag unusual transactions like large amounts or frequent returns. This helps the director focus on high-risk activity and save time.
I recommend is strengthen preventive controls by configuring the P card system to automatically decline any transactions greater than $5,000. And for director recommendation, I recommend enforcing ethics accountability to avoid employees from misusing their P cards. Now, I'm going to wrap things up by saying that our investigation started with a simple question. We know OSU policy forbids any single P card purchase over $5,000. We didn't look for the high numbers. We isolated the violations, grouping them by the cardholder and filtering repeat offenders with those two or more violations. And then thank you very much for listening to us.